Hi, all, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Shut Up, Get Up podcast. I'm your host, Mike Muldoon, and I want to go back and talk a little bit about the last episode. And there's some more I just want to touch on right here. And what I was saying in that last episode, if you're someone who's just continually worried about what others think about you or the choices you're making in your life, it's time to stop caring and just be you. I mean, odds are you are probably just perfectly fine, and you don't need to live up to others' expectations. And it's time to move from being a lamb to a lion. And as I alluded to in the last episode, being a lion has nothing to do with masculinity, just has to do with the willingness to leave the flock and go your own way without fear of repercussion. Scientists at the University of Leeds believe that they have found why humans flock like sheep by subconsciously just following a minority of individuals. These researchers discovered that it just literally takes a minority of just 5% to influence the crowd's direction, and that of that 95 other percent follow without even realizing it. Now, I believe that after a while, people realize that they're indeed in this flock and they're following this group. And they may want to get out, but the fear of leaving and the ramifications as to what might happen keep them there and often stop them from doing the things they love and living the lives that they're meant to live. There's this Turkish proverb that says, "A lion sleeps in the heart of every brave man." Now, again, this being a lion has nothing to do with masculinity. It's just about a willingness to go about things alone. See, the thing about lambs is that they move in a flock, and it's not because they just can't stand to be away from each other. It's because it keeps them safe. That's why lambs are regarded as prey animals, because of their inability to defend themselves. That's why they remain in a flock. Now, for most of us in our waking lives, I mean, if you're lucky, rarely do we find our lives in everyday danger or need to be in a flock. And yet, we put ourselves in one of them subconsciously most of the time and remain in them too scared, whether consciously or subconsciously, to step away. And a lot of it's just out of a fear of judgment or ridicule. And we're often thinking being in this flock is protecting us, but when in actuality, it is hurting us. Now, to give you some really good examples of this, you can see flocks actualized from an early age through various school cliques, right? Those exclusive circles or, groups of persons that were all held together by some common interest, views, or purposes. Usually our first glimpse of the flock is in our school years, right? It's when, it's often depicted in movies where those different flocks are the popular circle, the athletes, thespians, the stoners, and of course, the smart kids, and then usually there's just that one kid doing their own thing, quiet, keeping to themselves, maybe even endures a little bit of ridicule by others because, he or she doesn't fit into a particular flock or even want to be part of one. And let's look at that kid for a second. Let's take that kid and then let's bring the star athlete into this, right? And in that situation, if I said to you, who is the lion? Who is the lamb? A lot of times, pretty obvious, huh? But if you put the lion as the athlete, in many cases, you would be wrong. I mean, as I stated, the lambs and lions have nothing to do with masculinity. It has nothing to do with physical strength. It's just the willingness to go about it alone, the willingness to leave the flock if the flock isn't moving it towards their own goals or desires or living to a life fulfilled. You see, there's nothing wrong with being in a flock if that flock is serving your best interest and moving you towards living your best life. I mean, if you're a young entrepreneur and you belong to a group of other young entrepreneurs and together you're all moving towards a common goal and you're helping each other out and you're feeling fulfilled and it's really serving your needs and it's not holding you back from doing something but maybe propelling you forward, that's great. But let's just say you're part of a basketball team, but your passion might wanting to be joining the music club. But you allow your fear of being ridiculed by others for leaving the team and joining the music club, so you decide to stay in that flock. But it's not serving you. It's not serving your best interest. It's not allowing you to live your best life. You see, I was an athlete. I played football, lacrosse, baseball. I even played, in a collegiate level. And I can tell you firsthand that the jock mentality, a lot of times, is a herd mentality. It's a flock mentality. No one will succumb faster to peer pressure, stay in line with the flock, and not want to disrupt their status more than the jock mentality. I mean, let's look at pro sports. Yes, there have been athletes who have managed to exist as lions, a willingness to go about it alone without worrying about the safety of the flock while playing sports. But if you ever paid close attention to these individuals, there was something about them. There was an inner strength that couldn't be wavered. Tim Tebow is a perfect example of an athlete that didn't let the flock interfere with his thoughts and religious beliefs. Most people are not born like Tim Tebow. Colin Kaepernick lost his career to hold tight to his beliefs. And Michael Sam, the former SEC Defensive Player of the Year, risked his career and dream of playing in the NFL when he became the first openly gay player to enter the NFL draft. And let's just look at the NFL. Some of the toughest guys in the world that suffer from a flock mentality. One, basically, if you really look on it, built on keeping up with the Joneses. I've arrived, and he has this, and I have this, and, and spending lavishly. And it's been reported that over 78% of the players are broke or under financial stress only 2 years out of the game. I mean, how does this happen? But it's easy. A lot of times it's just that need to prove that they have arrived, because proving they arrived is the flock mentality. It's not just athletes or artists or other rich and famous. We see this every day with just regular people, right? Blowing up their social media, crafting a story about how amazing their lives are, and how they're not sort of living like the average person does, right? Posting pictures and vacations, cars, homes, gifts, trying to separate themselves from the others because somewhere in their lives, their beliefs were formed that made them feel that in order to feel significant, they needed to be recognized and admired by others. So by trying to differentiate, how much they don't live like, let's say, the common folk, they've essentially put themselves in a flock of a need to be significant. Now, look, there's no right way to live your life. So I'm not saying the person who lives modestly is better and the person who lives lavishly is. No. This has nothing to do about how you live your life. If you enjoy blowing your money, living the high life without a care in the world and not allowing the outside noise to influence you, then that's great. Live your life if that's making you happy. But if you're buying the Ferrari because you're too concerned that the Honda Pilot might not make you look cool and worried about perception and what people might think about you, then that's the problem. That's when you're in a flock mentality that is not serving you. Again, there's no right or wrong way to live, but it becomes the driving force. It's the thoughts behind the thoughts that dictate your decisions about what you want to do that could keep you in basically the wrong flock or stop you from going out alone. Again, being that kid that leaves the baseball team because he really wants to be part of the music club or vice versa. Or, going out in the world and finding a new flock that serves you better and aligns you with your goals and ideals. Look, don't get me wrong here. I'm not opposed to people sharing the finer things. Look, if you've done great in your life and you want to share things and you've acquired and you want to show the world, that's awesome. But if it's just coming from a place of being an accomplishment, but not worried about being validated or concerned about what other people think, not checking your feed every 5 minutes for every like or comment, which in today's society has become the ultimate validation for many. Coincidentally, it's also created a level of anxiety unheard of throughout times in young teens and adults. I mean, it's off the charts. So what I'm saying here is in order to really get somewhere, we just got to become lions. We have to have this willingness to go alone if we must, to break away if we have to, join another flock that serves our purpose, or stay with the little flock we're in, but maybe we're all moving together in a different direction, or go about it alone. You just can't be manipulated or held back by others. And, sometimes examples of flocks that you might run with that might be beneficial or even detrimental to you are family, friends, work associates, anyone and everyone who might be holding you back from living your best lives. Or, maybe in some cases they are propelling you forward, So here's the thing, depending on where you are in your life is really going to dictate how quickly you can sort of let's say pivot, right? Say, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm making this change and I'm going. If you're a young person right now, just starting out in the world and you're in a job you don't like, you could say, you know what, I'm out. I'm going. I'm going to figure it out. I've got no responsibilities and no accountabilities. And this is where it does get a little bit different for some, the older you get. Now, your decisions to do certain things might be influenced a little bit by your responsibilities and some of your accountabilities in life. For instance, I'm married, I have kids. If I just wanted to say, you know what, tomorrow I'm done with everything, I'm running out and I'm opening up a bookstore because that's what I want to do. Well, I might have to take into consideration a little bit of the thoughts of my wife. But if you're lucky like me, who has a very, supported spouse, she might say, well, great, if that's your dream, I don't want you to stop you from doing, but, we're going to have to, our pivot is going to be a little bit, whereas for young people, it's a speedboat, right? You just zip right around and change direction. We might be a little bit more on a barge, but we're going to move there. And if that's what we want to do, that's what we're going to do. But then what I can't do is let outside influences or voices and wherever they may come and say no. To give an example, let's just say you're a high profile executive, you're a partner in a law firm, you're a president of a bank, whatever it is, or maybe just something else. Just, you got a good job, a good 401k, you got great benefits, whatever it is. But your passion is, I want to own a bakery. Well, then that's your passion and you got to start taking the necessary steps to move there. If this is something that you really want to do, if this is something that's really been gnawing at your soul, that's great. You can move to it. But what you can't do is you can't let other people then, part of your flock say, hey, don't do that. That's a stupid idea. Nobody owns a bakery. Bakeries fail. Don't do that. You got a great job. You got great benefits. You got a 401k. Don't do it. You can't be influenced by those voices. At some point, you just got to say, this is what I'm going to do. And and history has been littered, even modern day. And even the story of Jeff Bezos, when he wanted to start Amazon, was told that's a terrible idea. It worked out. What I'm saying is, when you're a little bit older, it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot make those changes. And it also means you also have to be careful that some of those other voices aren't really sort of keeping you in line from living your best life. Because again, it is your life and you have to be willing to make choices that are going to benefit you. Or again, as you're older and you got some accountability and some relationships, your family, but you got to take the action to live your life your way because it is your life. And as much as others like to have a say in it, you're the one who has to live it. Now, here's the last thing about all this. Most of those naysayers in your lives, it's not that they don't want you to do it. It's just that they're jealous because they're too scared to do it.
Get up.